Bowman, a professor of leadership, once said that vision without strategy is just an illusion. And that's what brings us to the topic for today's show, the role of strategy in organizational growth. I am Adekemi Adefisayo, and you are welcome to the Ceed Chat, a show that gives you all-round management education pertaining to your business growth. Keep watching. You're welcome to the show, and just like you are, I am also very excited to introduce who we have on the show today, because I always get to learn just like you'll be learning, and we only bring the best of the best on the Ceed Chat. Hello, Mr. Jibola Babidele. It's so great to have you this day.
Thank you for having me.
How you doing? Have you been?
Good.
You know, it's always exciting, and even from the comments, it's just, oh my God, when is he coming back? Because you're always pouring so much into the people.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good, but I know it's going to be fun today also.
I trust that as well. On the show today, we're talking about the role of strategy in organization growth. So, what connects strategy to organizational growth? What's the linking point? Why is it so important?
So when you talk about growth and strategy, of course, it's obvious that people say if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail.
True.
So it's just like you want to move from here to, should I say Lagos Island, from, let's say you're moving from Lagos to Ibadan, and you don't have a map. I remember in those days whereby people, your friends stay in places and they tell you to come, but there's no map. You don't have Google Map in those days. You know, you struggle, you might roam for 8 hours.
Probably get missing.
Then somebody that maybe might know the guy might find you, or you might have to go back. So most times, strategy is a guide to growth. So it means that we have a plan on how we want to grow. And when you talk about organizational growth, I look at it from 4 major areas. So we have a strategy for the organizational growth we desire. And what are those areas? I look at profit, I look at people. And people, you're talking about 2 kinds of people, your internal staff and also customers. So you have 2 people you're addressing under people. Then I look at your product line. Is it growing? Is it moving? Or what's exactly happened to it? And you look at the last area, which talks about process. Your internal processes, is it right? So we talk about, once again, repeat it, profit, people, process, and product. Now, what's your strategy to grow your product line? What's your strategy to grow your people, your customers, base, and also your staff? What's your strategy to drive your profit? You know, do you want to increase your product offerings? Do you want to do market penetration? Do you want to develop new markets? What's your strategy to do all those things? So when you don't define these things, then you just be shooting without no targets. And you waste your bullets, you get frustrated, you waste money, you waste time.
Very interesting. So strategy is your guide to growth. And like they say, if you don't know where you're going, everywhere looks like where you're going to. You end up getting nowhere at the end of the day, and that's really sad. Absolutely. And that's really important, those metrics you've laid out for us. The people, your staff and your customers, the profits, also you talked about the process and also the product line. These are major metrics to look out for, to watch out whether or not growth is happening. So the next thing I would like to ask is, what are the key elements that are so important anytime an organization has to put a strategy together?
You see, most times when people ask about that element, I try not to sound too theoretical. So if I want to look at elements of strategy, I want to say, I want to see your vision. I want to see your goals. I want to see your initiatives. So I call it VGI.
VGI,
VGI.
Vision, goals, initiatives.
So vision is, where do you want to go? Okay, so I want to be the leading in your industry. I want to be the first 5. You know, what is your vision? So that will help us know whether what you are designing can match what you want to do. So I don't believe any way of life is wrong. It depends on where you want to go that determines whether it's wrong or right.
Wow.
So on the express lane of life, imagine you see someone going at 120 kilometers per hour and you see somebody else going at 50 kilometers per hour. Now, none of them is wrong. It depends on the distance they want to cover, you know, that determines how fast
the time they also want to take to get
there. Excellent. So we first need to define your vision. Becoming the leading in our industry in 2 years. in 5 years,
Measurable.
in 10 years.
Wow.
So we know, wow, this is your 10 years vision, this is your 5 years, this is your 2 years. Then I cascade it down to your goals. Okay, so when you say the best, the leading, what does it mean to you? Profit goals. So what do you want your profit to be? How many products do you want to have by then? So what do you call best in clear terms? So people call it SMART objectives and all. So break it down so clearly. Then initiatives are the things you need to do together. Because if you get the initiative wrong, you mess up all of them. You mess up goals, you mess up your vision. So the actions you need to take, the things you need to do to close that gap, the projects you need to execute to get to where you're going. So those things must be very clear, the VGI, if you want to get your strategy right.
Very interesting. If there's something you should remember or take away, it's the VGI. It's already stuck in my head. Your vision, your goals, and your initiative, key elements to creating a strategy that actually moves you to growing. And now when an organization, for instance, you understand this is the vision, these are the goals, these are the initiatives. What is the fastest way to make it happen? What steps must they begin to take?
Okay, so you see, what makes strategy work is those initiatives you're taking. So you need to plan those initiatives. We start talking about executing them, getting the right people to execute them, getting the right skills to execute them. So I can talk about the 7 S of McKinsey in that, talking about your structure that you put in place to make sure it happens. You start looking at your system to see whether it's going to happen, your staffing. You look at your leadership style. We start talking about the kind of leaders you have to see whether you can drive your strategy. We start talking about your should I say, your skills, the skills you need in your system. So all those things you're looking at are the ones that will assist you in achieving those goals that you want to achieve. So
I love that, because something important you've also shared with us on the show before is the fact that the people you have in a business determine how well a business grows, whether or not, it excels. And so when you talk about the fact that getting the right people into the system, making sure structure is in place, that is really...
So why do you think Ayimba, Baka will always beat Ayimba? It's not the name, it's the people. The people that they have, the skills, the leaders, the coach, all those things determine whether they're going to beat their opponent or not. So it's not the name we bear that determines the people. And when you say people, it's about their skills. It's about their style of leadership. It's about capacity. It's not about their size. Okay? So we should get that right.
Next question, and I'm sure this is going to really be transforming the organization of someone watching right now. We have everything set. We've got vision, we've got goals, we have initiatives, we have people. What are the top 3 mistakes an organization could make that could just ruin all these things and make their strategy go wrong?
Okay, so copying somebody else's vision is a mistake. Not tailoring your strategy to your competence and your maturity. Every organization has a level of maturity where you are. So you can't copy somebody else's strategy. You can say somebody's doing this, you want to do that, it's a mistake. And most times, some organizations also believe that all kinds of people can also drive their strategy, because as you're changing your strategy, you need to change your culture, you need to change your people.
It's like an evolution.
You need to change your... So there's a system, that so many things must change as you're changing your strategy. So, but most time, people keep that strategy the same, change strategy, but they don't change people, they don't change culture, they don't build new skills, they don't build... So of course, these are major mistakes that we can make and see that we get frustrated, and every single year we keep coming back and revising the strategy again and say, these are not working. The discipline in your organization will be clear. So many things are around mistakes we make when we set strategy and we don't do the right thing, put the right things in place to make sure it works. So it's not only 3, there's a lot of mistakes we can make.
Powerful. I love the fact that you talked about having to evolve. There must be an alignment. You say you are going here, then make sure you're carrying your people along to get there. And then when you said don't copy someone else's vision, that blew me away. Like, what do you want to do? You can't be a replica. You can't be a copycat, because what even stands you out in the market? Then?
Because you see, another thing to get is this. Okay, let's example. The vision of that company is different. So the way they'll be running will be different. And what
you
determines,
just carry that.
what determines where you get is how you run. So because Mr. A is going at 50 kilometers per hour, then I start going at 50 kilometers per hour. Where I'm going is different from Mr. A.
Wow.
So you need not to, and even when Mr. A is smiling and excited, because most times we feel when people are not sad, it means they are doing well. Based on their own strategy, they might be doing well. But when it comes to your own strategy, you might not be doing well. So you need to tailor that fits where you are, where you're going. And some people set strategy also. Okay, one mistake I think I remember again is we might come up with a strategy that we don't even have resources to push.
How does one navigate that situation? What if it was a perfect strategy?
So what we do is this. So since we set goals, so when you look at your current capabilities, so you set goals that are, even when you have a 10-year goal, you break it down. Okay, how can we move from point A to point B? Then we move from we're going to point D, but we might not totally, we have conquered different phases. So we might not have money to get to point D now. At once, but we can move from A to B. So when we get B right, then we can move from B to C. But you see, people get frustrated because they don't break it down based on what they have, based on their maturity, based on how the people are growing. They just believe that everything is possible and they can just move around it, and you weigh yourself down. You get discouraged because you're getting to point B. So you're measuring progress already, A already, C already, but because you're not going to E, you are discouraged that you're not getting there. So it's also people have wrong timing to their strategy. And these are all things that also can frustrate people when it comes to strategy.
The final thing I would like to ask is, how often should strategies be reviewed?
Okay, so let's say, for example, before you form your strategy, you talk about your competitors, you talk about your business terrain, you talk about your resources, your maturity, where it is. So those things are changing. They're new competitors. So the things we're doing that you're clapping for before might not work again. And when you say how fast, it depends on your industry. Some monthly, some weekly, some yearly, some, it depends. So just make sure you pay attention to the measurements and see whether things are working. If it's not working, then there's something we call strategic drift. When you are or escalation of commitment, when you're holding on to what's not working anymore. So I believe if something is not working, you take it away and re-strategize.
And I think that also talks about being agile and going away from that mindset that says, this is how we've said it will be. This is how we must work with it through the year. If midway you see this isn't working for us, you pause and say, what can we do to make it better? This is so amazing. And I've had such a phenomenal time.
Thank you.
Just before you leave the show today, I would like you to share with the audience one thing they must never forget about strategy.
Yeah, so without great strategy, then you end up in tragedy. And that's what I feel I want to drop with them.
Quotable quotes, like tweet this, leave it in the comments. Without great strategy, you end up in tragedy. And of course, there's been so many nuggets shared with us by Mr. Jibola Bamidele. We're really grateful.
Thank
and
you.
We look forward to having you some other time. I'm always excited to have you on this show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, do well to subscribe. Follow us on all our social media platforms. We're available. And if you have questions, you have topics you'd like us to review, you have topics you'd like us to talk about, we're here to serve you. That's the essence of the Ceed Chat. Make sure you leave a message and we'll get to it. Till next time, do take care. And of course, remember, without the right strategy, you end up in tragedy.
Ceed Academy, your growth partner.